I am so excited for this card to join Marvel Snap. Werewolf by Night is going to be the final card for the October season, and it's my most anticipated. I think it's going to be the most powerful. I think it just might be the most fun. It looks like a good time. A 3/3 after you play an on reveal card at another location, move there and gain +2 power. As always, the mechanics of this card might be a little bit surprising, and there's some big implications once you learn how this works. So stay tuned because we're going to cover the mechanics, some counters, some deck lists that I brewed up, and my goodness, I am excited to use this card. But look at what else is being provided in the Spotlight caches the week Werewolf is released. Ghost Spider and Silk. I don't own Silk, so this is a cash money week for me. Spoiler alert, might be opening up some Spotlight caches. Not necessarily a spoiler whether I think you guys should drop the coin on this card or not. We'll get to that later, but here we have Silk, a Series 5 card, and Ghost Spider, a Series 5 card. If you don't have either, well, they're all move cards, all kind of works together. I think this is a pretty solid week when it comes to opening up Spotlight caches. Now, I know a lot of people were opening up for Nico and maybe a few cards before, but if you save some of those up, I think this is a good week to open Spotlight caches. That said, Werewolf by Night is a Series 5 card. It's going to cost 6,000 tokens, which is not cheap. So let's learn more about how this card is going to work to have an idea of whether we should pick it up or not. All right, so here are some key mechanics when it comes to Werewolf by Night. Now, these have all been confirmed by the developers either through Twitter, Discord, or just me privately asking them. So here we have a few key points. Order of operations triggers after a friendly on reveal resolves. This is huge. This is kind of typical, order of operations. It's kind of like a thing like Bishop, right? Because this is just a triggered ability. It doesn't have an on reveal, can't get countered by Cosmo necessarily or anything like that. It's just going to happen when an on reveal is played in shows. But I wasn't too sure. What if it happens before? What if it happens after? But yes, like Bishop, like Angela, Werewolf will wait until the on reveal resolves, then move over there. So think about this. Carnage, Venom, destroy decks, right? Triggering those honor reveals, eating everything up at that location, then moving over there. Amazing. I love that. Or another key card that I'm going to talk about quite a bit later is Heimdall. Heimdall moves everything to the left, and then Werewolf jumps back to the Heimdall location. I love that synergy because usually Heimdall, one of the problems is that he's just not enough power to sustain a location by himself, and he's moving everything away. So unless you played him on the left, then you're not really going to be able to win that right location of Heimdall if everything moved away, right? So Werewolf jumping over gives him that extra 5, 7, 9 power maybe even for a big burst. I love that combination. But anyways, I'm going to ahead of myself because a key thing to note when it comes to move decks is that moving is required to obtain the +2 power buff, but it does not get the +2 power if it's moved by other cards. So Doctor Strange, even Cloak, Iron Fist, you use those cards on Werewolf by Night, you're kind of wasting your movement, okay? You don't need to do that. Werewolf is already going to jump to those locations anyways because they have on reveals on the ones I mentioned. So you kind of want to use it on other things, move other cards, and maybe not even run them in a move deck necessarily, but just keep that in mind that if you play Doctor Strange, you play Heimdall, when those movement interactions occur, Werewolf won't get the buff. But he will jump to a location to follow that on reveal and get his own buff. So you can only buff Werewolf through his own ability. And the movement is required. That is key because of Professor X, right? Professor X locks up a location. That is a hard counter Werewolf because you can't just play a bunch of on reveals and be laughing because your Werewolf is stuck but getting +2 power on repeat. No, he's got to move over there. Other implications are like debris, green goblins, these stuff decks that are going to put stuff on your side of the board, making it really hard to move the Werewolf around and get that bonus power. Now, let's say you play your on reveal card, but there's a Cosmo there. You're probably thinking Cosmo's a pretty good counter to this card. We'll get to that in a second, but not really because even if the on reveal doesn't go off, the card that was played, as long as it has an on reveal, Werewolf will recognize that and jump over there and get the +2 power. So we're good to go. It doesn't really necessarily matter. If you do it intentionally, maybe just because of the board space limitations, it's not a bad idea to move the Werewolf around and get a little bit of extra power. So it can work. And maybe there's even some on reveals we don't want to trigger and you want to play them into a Cosmo lane, but still have your Werewolf move. it will work. But then you might be thinking about cards like, what if they lose their ability via leech or some other fashion? Well, that actually removes the text from the card, so Werewolf won't be able to recognize that that was an on-reveal card because it's gone. It doesn't have that on-reveal anymore, so it's just a no-ability card being played, right? It's the same reason why Patriot can recognize that a card with its text removed will get +2 power, because there's no text there anymore. It's no ability. And lastly, I don't have it here, but I think it's pretty obvious, but I just want to mention it anyways, is that this is gained power, right? So it can get countered with Shadow King or these sorts of things. It's not permanently fixed to the card. It's just a +2 buffer. All right, now let's talk about some pros and cons with Werewolf. Man, I had a hard time coming up with cons. I'm stretching it a little bit. I'm going to start with those. Busy board, just like I mentioned, the Green Goblin, the debris and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's going to make it difficult because then you're going to have a hard time getting those on-reveals off at the locations you want to, finding the space for Werewolf, right? You can't play an on-reveal card if it's the 4th position at a location and expect Werewolf to get that buff because he has nowhere to go, right? Unless it's Carnage, Venom, anything like that. You got to make sure there's enough space for the on-reveal card and Werewolf. So space management is definitely going to be an issue, and that leads to a lot of location variants that can become problematic. Locations like Sanctum Sanctorum or just really anything like that that really make it, or Space Throne, that make it difficult to play a lot of cards, have a lot of space, move around. Well, Werewolf is definitely going to struggle. But the good part about this card, when we look at the pros, it's an easy condition to meet. It's not going to take long until we're at premium stats, and there's so many on-reveal cards in the game, guys. We have like 250 cards, I think, in Marvel Snap. I once did a full list of all the on-reveal cards in Snap. It is well over 100 at this point. So the sky's the limit for synergies, and you probably, no matter what kind of deck you're running, have a few on-reveals in there. If you literally just play 2 after playing Werewolf, you then have a 3/7 Wolf. And I think we're pretty happy with 3/7 stat line with no downside. So it's so good and so easy to get to premium stats with this card. And that's just 2 cards. And it's a 3-drop. We can play the 3-drop. We can play stuff on 4, 5, multiple cards on 6, and that's just a whole bunch of on-reveals. It could be a lot of like 1-drops that have on-reveals, like Iceman and stuff like this, and just move the Wolf over and over and over. Now, again, going back, it's going to become a busy board if we're doing that a lot, and that's where we might have difficulty getting that crazy power total, which we don't necessarily need. It might not be the best idea to get to 9 power, because then we're within Shang-Chi range. Unless we can dodge, with priority, etc. But you might want to just keep this Wolf at 7 and be happy. Time will tell. I'm sure people will want to go crazy and get their Wolf to like 20 power, and it will happen. I'm sure of it. But lastly, here's the craziest thing about this card. Now, it could either backfire, or it could be the coolest play ever in Marvel Snap, is when you have priority, your opponent's trying to Shadow King, Shang-Chi that Werewolf, and you just say, nope, because you use it on reveal, pull the Wolf over, it dodges that counter. That would be so sick. It's going to happen. It's going to come up. It's going to be a highlight reel, YouTube short, you name it, TikTok. We're going to see it. It's going to be so cool. But you could also have the inverse, right? You could also pull the Wolf directly into a Shang-Chi snipe and cry and lose. So I guess it goes both ways, but it's going to be neat when it works. Dodging with the Wolf is going to be a lot of fun. Oh man, just talking about this card gets me so hyped up for it. But maybe you don't want to pick it up because it is an expensive card. It's 6,000 tokens. Maybe you want to counter it. Let's check out some counters. All right, so the first counter here is Cosmo, but I have an asterisk here because it doesn't really directly affect Werewolf necessarily. And even if a card is played into the Cosmo lane, like we mentioned, the on reveal won't trigger, but Werewolf will move over and get the +2 power. I'm still calling it a counter because you probably wanted that on reveal to go off. So that card that's getting countered, like if it's Surfer or something like that, yeah, it's cute that Werewolf got over there and got the +2 power, but you probably wanted more. So in general, you're probably running a lot of on-reveal cards in your Werewolf deck, and that might result in some sad days. So I'm going to keep it there as a counter. Another one is Kingpin. Kingpin on turn 6, don't move your Wolf because Kingpin will smash it. That could be a nasty little problem. Shadow King, of course, we were talking about that earlier. It's gain power, go back down to 3. You could even put Shang-Chi here because it's probably going to get to 9 power, can get destroyed. Craven I have here, which you might be a little bit shocked. You might be thinking, well, isn't that a great synergistic card? And It's definitely synergistic. It's great, but it's a reciprocal effect. If you move cards around and your opponent just has Craven and chilling, you're going to be buffing their Craven. That's where I'm thinking, okay, we might want to watch out where we're moving this Wolf around because Craven's going to absorb all that power. If we're scaling +2 with Wolf into the Craven that's scaling with +2, not exactly ideal. So I guess it's a kind of a pseudo counter here. And then Debris, Green Goblins, all the junk stuff. Okay, Debris just kind of showing that, yeah, that'd be really nasty, having some rocks at 2 locations. We just need a lot of space to move. That's what we want. And then lastly, Professor X, because we know that the movement needs to occur for the Wolf to get the +2 power. So if he's locked up in a lane, he's not getting those buffs. And here are some of the key synergies and deck lists that I have brewed up for you guys here today. Now, of course, I'm going to have an article on CCG Hub. I'll have the link in the description below, but definitely go check it out because I'll have some bonus decks for you guys to theorycraft and use and copy and put into Marvel Snap when you're trying out this card. But here's 3 that I have that I'm most excited about. The Howlers, a move deck. I love playing move. It's so much fun, but it, often isn't as powerful as you want it to be. And I also like the standard move with Heimdall as the finisher, Vulture, Torch, these sorts of things, Iron Fist, Cloak, Craven, Doctor Strange. It's such a classic. It's honestly like a throwback to early days of Marvel Snap when you're in Series 1 and you get a lot of those move cards and you can finally build a deck like this. It's so much fun, and I think Werewolf by Night is going to do fantastic in it because there's a lot of synergies here. Look at all the on reveals. I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on reveals to trigger. Heimdall, like I mentioned, is just a fantastic combination with the Wolf. We get him to like 7 power, going to the Heimdall location. That's a 15 power location, buffing the Vulture with the movement, buffing Craven, Torch, all this great stuff. I am omitting Multiple Man, and I could have maybe put in Multiple Man, but I'm worried about the board cluster. So I ended up leaving that one out, and I got Hulkbuster in here just straight up for 5 power and move the Werewolf, right? We can attach the Hulkbuster to another card. Werewolf will jump over there. Just a nice bit of power, especially if we use it on Human Torch. But honestly, there's a few cards here you could change up. If you wanted to go Dagger, Dagger's another fun movement card that you could slot in. But yeah, we just want a lot of on reveals, a lot of movement, keeping the board nice and clean, getting that Miles Morales discounted, and it's going to be a good time. I'm excited to play that list. The other list I'm super excited for is Surfer by Night. So Silver Surfer and Werewolf. I mean, come on, man. That's such a great pair. You're going to get the +2 from the movement jumping over to the Silver Surfer location if the board permits. And then you're also going to get the +2 power from the Werewolf ability. So that's 4 just from playing Surfer with your Werewolf out there. And that's not even, including all of these other on reveals. In this deck, I have 9 on reveals, and you could even count 10 because I think Thor is actually a really sneaky good card to pair with Werewolf by Night and Silver Surfer decks, because Thor's going to get, the on reveal from his ability, but then also Mjolnir has an on reveal. So that's 2. So you could be looking at 10 possible on reveals in this deck, all working beautifully together. We got Sarah to discount everything so that like turn 6 is just crazy. I contemplated on putting in Magic, but I had a hard time cutting one of these cards. I'm not sure which one I would want to take out. I like the control of having Killmonger and Shang-Chi. Maximus is just such a good card. Spider-Man, I got some movement for Craven. Craven we could maybe take out, but I honestly felt like I needed a little bit of early curve to help out the deck. But there's going to be a version of this that's going to pop off, man. This is going to be so good and so much fun to play. Brood actually becomes a card contemplating being cut because he's taking up 3 spots and you can't really move. Like you could do one movement, right? You play Brood in an open location, Werewolf jumps over there, but anytime after that, you're not going to get those on reveals over there to get the Wolf to move. So he's almost clunky, but it's hard to omit Brood from a Silver Surfer list because the 2 pair so beautifully together. So anyways, I think that is going to be a lot of fun, and I think I'm going to stream that when the Werewolf comes out right away as soon as I can. And then the last deck that I have here is the Blood Moon, and I thought about putting Thanos, so you can maybe look at putting Thanos instead of this Deadpool package, but I know this Deadpool package is just popping off. So I thought I'd put it out there because I think Werewolf is going to be a very good destroy card. You know, all these destroys and opening up that lane, you don't have to worry about board space because you're destroying stuff with Venom, you're destroying stuff with Deathlock, Carnage, Killmonger. We're buffing up with Forge. We got Nico Minoru. If you have that card, great with the Werewolf. You know, getting doubling power or giving +2 power, doubling her own power, changing the location doesn't really matter. It's just all good. And I think it's going to do great because they're going to destroy stuff. He's going to move over there, get a bunch of power, easy on reveal activators. But maybe you want to slot in Thanos here. You could probably put in Thanos over Null if you really wanted to, because we're not looking to get a crazy powerful Null. Instead, we want to use Thanos and the Infinity Stones to get a bunch of those on reveals. That could be really nice too. I was kind of between the two and I just ended up going with this course of action. But man, there's so much other stuff like Bounce. Just look at all the on reveals. It's just crazy what you can do with the Werewolf. I think it's going to be so much fun. I don't think it's very easily countered, but do I think this card is a snap or pass? Oh yeah, let's go. Of course I'm saying it's a snap. I think this is one of the better cards, one of the easier cards to put in deck lists, so you're going to get a lot of use out of this card. I think it's going to help you get to infinite. It's going to be meta competitive. I could honestly see this being nerfed. I'm going to go ahead and make an early prediction. We already sniped it with Elsa. When I did my snapper pass, I said I'm calling it now. She's going to be +2 power because she's too strong. Sure enough, she's giving out +2 power as of the last OTA. I'm going to go ahead and say that Werewolf will get a slight nudge. In general, I think the power increase is fine being +2, but I could see Werewolf going to a 3-2 so that scaling becomes 3-4, 3-6, 3-8, 3-10, which is actually not that bad because then you're under the Shang-Chi range. So I think that's a pretty safe nerf to implement without, you know, hurting the card too much. Or it's just not that great and it doesn't get nerfed. That could happen too. You never really know. But when I look at this, I just can't see how it's not going to be a good card. It looks like a lot of fun too. Those lists I was talking about, man, it gets me excited. So I'm going to be using Spotlight caches. This is a cash money Spotlight cache week for me because I do not own Silk or Werewolf, of course. So I'm going for those two. If you do have the tokens, maybe hold off. One of the biggest things I can always recommend when you're looking at these videos and any content surrounding a new card is give it time. Everybody is so quick to say this is broken, this is amazing, and et cetera, or maybe this is trash or whatever. And then, you know, a few days later, the numbers come out, the stats come out. You watch a few streams, you see a couple combos, something gets discovered. Like, you got to give these cards a bit of a breather. So I think it's a little bit smarter to wait like 3-4 days, see the dust settle, and then make your decision on the card. But for me, I'm going for it right away in the Spotlight caches. Let's go. I'm excited for Werewolf by Night. It's exciting. All right. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you're new to Snapper Pass, we do this with every single new card. I try to get as much info on the mechanics as possible because I truly believe that is the most important thing that you can learn with these new cards before you buy them, right? You got to know how they work before you make the purchase. It's a big deal. They are not cheap. So anyways, thank you for checking it out, and I will catch you guys next time.